They call it the Spice Islands, Molucca? Can't remember the name.
Ano ai ke aloha ya kākou. Thank you for joining us today. This will be a bifurcated news conference as we have a couple of items to cover this afternoon. First, we will have Governor Josh Green and Hawaiʻi Department of Transportation Director Ed Sniffen provide an update on the airport operations in Keāhole, Kona. Facilitated questions and answers will follow promptly after remarks conclude. After a brief intermission, Governor Green will announce his appointment for the vacancy in House District 29. Without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce Governor Josh Green.
Aloha, everyone. We thought that it would be appropriate to give everyone an update on the circumstance over in Kona at Elson Onizuka International Airport, Kona Airport. First, let me say, when you're the governor and your phone blows up in the middle of the afternoon or the evening, and all of a sudden you're getting calls and texts from old friends and directors and concerned citizens, you know something has happened. Well, that's what happened yesterday. Very specifically, I started getting calls from individuals who were on planes who had heard that there was a problem with the runway, and then simultaneously, actually in real time, from my director saying we're on it. we have a problem, however. So we do have a problem. It's already being remedied, if not having been remedied. And that is that we had a defect, a hole in the asphalt on the runway, which obviously has to be cared for instantaneously because safety is everything. So let me say this. When I heard it was Kona Airport, of course, that is close to my heart. I've done personally over 1,000 round trips in and out of Kona Airport over the many years that I got to serve as senator and representative from that area. I'm familiar with every inch of that space, and it's an older facility. It needs support. And as Ed goes over the details, our director, Ed Sniffen, goes over the details of what they're doing about this, let me say this. Our commitment to infrastructure is enormous. We have inherited over the years some significant projects that have to be upgraded, without a doubt. This is one of them. So $120 million is going to go into Kona Airport to make sure that we have really a facility for the future that's totally safe. $130 million over into Kauai's capacity to bring travelers in. Needless to say, transportation, travel, tourism are central in every way. The Tourism Authority was right on this with us also. My DBED director contacting me, Mufi Hahnemann, the head of HTA. Everyone was on this because they wanted to know how long is it going to be. And Ed said, I got this. This is going to be fixed by 3 in the morning. And when you are getting text messages at 1 and 1:15 and 1:45 and getting those updates, you're grateful as a governor to having an extraordinary director of transportation. So what I'll do now is say, though my phone has stopped blowing up because Ed is on the job so well, know that we are always going to be there in real time to make sure things are safe and get fixed when we have a problem like this. And now I'll call up Ed for the details.
Aloha, Ed Sniffen, Department of Transportation Director. I'll tell you, I'm happy to be here today and not fired because I was bugging Governor all night with all the texts that we had on updates and everything. And it was pretty exciting. Yesterday in the morning, about 8 o'clock, our staff identified a crack in the runway, about 8 inches long, about 2 inches wide at the most. By 11 o'clock, they looked at it again to make sure that things didn't progress, and it was about the same size. But the same crack by 2:30 had accelerated in degradation tremendously. It turned into a 3-foot hole in that area. So at about 2:30 yesterday, our staff issued a NOTAM to airlines to say, there's this fault in the runway, to be careful. We sent out our staff to inspect the area to determine whether or not we keep it open or we close it. Closing a runway, especially Kona, and a runway like Kona Airport, is a tremendous decision. We understand the impacts they're going to have on travel, on the passengers, on our partner airlines, and our cargo facilities that come through those areas. But when we started inspecting the area and determined that the accelerated degradation was a concern, and the potential for other portions of that runway accelerating in degradation was big as well, we determined it was time to shut it down. So at 4:20 yesterday, we shut down the runway to all operations, both flights both in and out. We sent our crews out to ensure that we inspect the area, determine the scope of work, because we were determined to fix that last night. We got our contractor on board. Our contractor sent up their crews, Grace Pacific, sent up their crews from Oahu through Lihue to Hilo. They drove up from Hilo to Kona to make sure they started cutting the pavement in the areas that we had identified. They also sent their crews to pick up their mill that was in Kohala to bring it back to the airport. So they went through tremendous lengths to ensure that we got the resources that we needed to make this fix done, or get this fix done. Our contractor started working at about 9 p.m. On cutting in the runway areas that we had identified. And by 11:30, we started milling the area. By 1, we started paving. So by 2:30, we finished up the paving operations, made sure that we looked at other areas, and we found another portion, a 3x10 portion that we felt we had to fix in order to ensure we didn't have any faults in the runway today. So we fixed that area as well. By 3:30, we were done with the work. 4:30, we cleaned up the runway to ensure that there was no debris and no danger to airplanes. And before 5 o'clock, we issued a NOTAM to open the airport to all of our partners again. Throughout the night, we kept our partners updated to ensure that they understood where we were on the repairs of the runway. I gotta say, I really appreciate the work of our contractor, Grace Pacific, and the work and the efforts that they put through. and our staff on the Big Island, who were out there all night ensuring that we could fix that runway, get everything moving again today, and keep everybody safe as we did it. This comes right on the verge of us pushing out our $120 million construction project. We're going to be reconstructing that whole 11,000-foot runway and starting up by August, September of this year. So the timing is unfortunate, but we're happy that we made the decision to fix it rather than pushing this to potential safety issues for our airlines. That's what I have for now, and I'm open to any questions.
And I can tell you, with this new approach, we're going to have the rail done next week for the whole project and the stay.
All right. Our first question in facilitated media Q&A comes from Daryl Huff with Hawaii News Now.
Governor, and why is it necessary to have to fly in a contractor to fix a pothole? I mean, I would think that at an airport as important as Kona, you would have facilities, repair people close at hand.
Probably, yeah.
So the materials that we use on the runway are polymer and trained asphalt. We need a mill, we need a plant, we need resources from a mill is what we use to cut the asphalt. So if we went out there with a dozer to try and cut the asphalt, we can't keep it clean. We can't keep the cut clean. That mill goes out and cuts out that depth that we need to keep that cut clean, to make sure that the adhesion of the new asphalt bonds to the old. That's what the mill is for. We cannot just cut it ourselves. We've got to make sure we have that equipment. We also got to make sure that we have a plant and resources or asphalt that's available. Great Pacific had both. We didn't have another contractor available in that area that had all of those pieces. So they flew their crews in to ensure that they could support us.
I guess just to follow up, my question is really, why don't we have, as the state of Hawaii, those resources available to you to make sure that this runway doesn't have to be shut down?
I think that even if we had a maintenance crew that could do that work, we still would have to shut it down. I mean, it still would have been shut down through that busy period. That nighttime that we worked, there was no operations that were running between that midnight time to 3 a.m. So we had no impact on anybody. Now, that being said, if we had that crew and those resources, we got to pay that crew and resources throughout. But if we pay a contractor, we pay them for the services that we need.
Our next question comes from Chrissy Tamashiro, KHON2.
All right, my question's for Ed. After this incident, will this maybe accelerate the Kona, repaving project? And I know OGG is up for repaving as well. Any changes to other projects?
For Kona, we're pushing forward as quickly as possible. The thing is, we could potentially have the contract set for us to start prior to summer. But if we do that, we'll be interrupting that summer peak through that area. So what we're doing instead is repairing these areas to ensure that we have a pavement that will last several years, knowing that our construction project, even if it starts in fall, will take a couple of years to get through all of the areas. So after we're done with this repair, we're comfortable that we have a pavement that's going to last us through the construction project.
One of the extraordinary circumstances last night was also that the place that the defect occurred was smack dab in the middle of essentially 13,000 feet runway, and you basically need 6,500 feet, I learned, to safely land airplanes. We can never take any risks in this space. But had the defect occurred, say, 3,000 feet down the way, we probably wouldn't have had to have any delays. We could have quietly just done the project over the course of a few days and just routed people to the other length of that runway. As luck would have it, this is what happened. But we're grateful that no one had any danger, and also we're particularly glad that they were able to get out that night. I was bracing myself. I'd already received calls from some of our congressional delegation about how long a delay might be and how we would explain it to the world. And I was particularly pleased that we were able to tell people we can fix something overnight.
Hello, Governor. Our next question comes from Dan Nakaso, Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Hey, Governor. Question's actually for Ed. Question and a clarification. How many flights were disrupted? How many passengers between yesterday and this morning?
I don't have the number of passengers, but from our count, it's 26 flights. So 9 Trans-Pacific and 17 inter-island flights. 9 Trans-Pacific flights and 17 inter-island flights.
And then
160 people, Dan. 160 people got put up in hotels. And it does sting when that kind of thing happens, but we've seen a lot of delays in the mainland, and I know people are sensitive about that. But that's why I was grateful that Ed got us squared away before the day.
And a clarification, Ed, you mentioned later in the day was a 3 by 10 portion was discovered. Is that 3 feet by 10 feet?
3 feet by 10 feet. So 3 feet wide by 10 feet long. Yeah. That was the one that we did last night as well. So we did a 10 by 20. And while we were doing that, our staff was inspecting other areas of concern. When they found this area, they determined that was an area of risk. So we fixed it last night as well. There's another area that we're going to repair tonight between midnight to 3 a.m. There's cracking in the area, not as concerning as what we fixed last night. But we determined that, to Christy's question, in order for us to make sure that we're comfortable that this pavement is going to last us through the construction period, we're going to repair this area as well so that it doesn't become an issue in the future.
Director Sniffen, go ahead, Governor.
I was waiting for the question about why this is happening. One of the things that we're seeing is as we have deluges from time to time, we're seeing some infrastructure fail. You saw we've now at least twice had these large, landfalls down onto the poly, right? We've had landslides. And when you get rain in Kona, you don't get a lot of rain. You get like 13 inches a year. But sometimes when it comes like 2 or 3 inches like slamming in, and there's no way for it to drain off. And we in Kona over the years, we're always waiting for that annual, kind of superstorm. And when those things happen, we worry about this. And there's a lot of that on the Big Island in a lot of different areas. But this was our first runway issue.
Governor, our next question comes from Chad Blair, Civil Beat.
I just want to clarify, of those 26 flights that were disrupted, does that mean some of them didn't actually land in Kona, had to go to Hilo or Maui? Is that correct, Ed?
That's correct. Yeah.
And then, Gov, you said 160 people were put up in hotels. You're referring to those diverted flights. Is that correct?
Yeah, the breakdown was there were 17 inter-island flights. 13 flights were canceled total. 1 was diverted, and 3. Then there were these 3 other inter-island cancellations, and there were the 9 trans-Pacific. So
the 26 flights total disrupted, 9 trans-Pacific, 17 inter-island, 13 were canceled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
That's
then
right.
you indicated the 160 passengers were put up in hotels. Ed said they landed at nearby airports.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Our final question comes from KITV.
Excuse me. So I know that Lihue Airport on Kauai also has some major issues. Is there anything being done to prevent similar incidents like that?
Yes, we have a construction project on Kauai to upgrade that runway. It's about $135 million. It's going to move forward this year as well.
Yeah, so we have we've got the very big project on Kauai. We have this Kona project, and there's also, if I'm not mistaken, a $10 million Maui project, all related to runway improvements. So, a lot of people, when they ask us about what Department of Transportation is doing at the airports, they're interested in kind of the shinier items, the terminals, and beautifying the space, which is really important. But perhaps even more important is to make sure that we have all of our infrastructure solid as can be. In fact, it is more important because it's safety related. So that's what I've asked the director to take on, and he's charging ahead with large projects.
Governor, our final question comes from Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Is it fair, given what you said at the beginning of this press conference, that this runway is at the stage where these kind of problems will be happening more often, that it's actually deteriorated some over the years to get us here? And my second question, just to pile on, is there any compensation available for people who lost money because of this situation?
Yeah, so this runway is about 30 years old, so it's time for it to be replaced. And with governor's support, we're pushing a bunch of money into these infrastructure adjustments to ensure that we don't have to worry about this, or that our traveling public doesn't have to worry about this for years to come. There is, from our perspective, and Governor spoke to this, this is a weather event that occurred that caused this. When we started cutting out that AC, we found layers of water that infiltrated into the pavement that helped cause that shearing that occurred in that area. And from our perspective, it's unfortunate that the flights were impacted, unfortunate that people's travel were impacted, and some people incurred additional costs. But this is not unlike any other weather event that potentially blocks out visibility of an airport and doesn't allow an airplane to land. From that perspective, it's very difficult to assign blame for this kind of thing. It happens.
And just to wrap, look, I want to particularly thank Ed and his team. They were on top of this like you can't believe. A lot of times people say we don't do things quickly in Hawaii, and that may be the case occasionally, but not when it comes to our safety. Not 2 weeks ago, they were able to clear the poly super fast, and this time fix our runway. And we're going to be honored to welcome the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, here to the islands next month, where he will look at a lot of our infrastructure, and we'll be making our case to him through our directors mostly about how the federal government can support Hawaii going forward, because they know that we're true partners. So that'll be next month, and maybe we'll even get Pete up to do a press conference. Aloha. That's okay. Thank you. I'll be right back.
Ano ai ke aloha ya kākou. Thank you for joining us again today for the second part of our bifurcated news conference this afternoon. At this time, Governor Green will announce his appointment for the vacancy in House District 29. Facilitated questions and answers will follow promptly after remarks conclude. Without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. So it's a great pleasure and honor for me to announce May Mizuno as the successor for the House of Representatives District 29 seat. May was selected from 3 fantastic nominees that were sent to me by the Democratic Party per our rules, all with strong ties to the community. All were Filipino in this case and leaders in their own right. I interviewed them all. These are great people. That said, in the days since the nominations came down to our office, there was overwhelming support for May to succeed John Mizuno. May's been chief of staff in that district now for 17 years. As you know, my suspicion is May told John what to do more often than not. And she appropriately then knows everything about this district inside and out. John has been a great representative, but it's common for office managers to rise into this position. An example, our chair has been an office manager before becoming a representative. Our lieutenant governor was an office manager, I believe, before becoming a representative. So there's a lot of examples of that. May served on her neighborhood board. She led organizations like the Congress of Visayan organizations, volunteered for Aloha Medical Goodwill Missions. She drafted legislation over the years, including our Patriot Day Act, honoring the victims of 9/11 many years ago. She's been advocate for children. The event that we have for Children and Youth Day, that's run in large part by Dennis Arakaki and Susie Chun Oakland. She's been central to that for so long. So extraordinary work. I'm certain that she will accomplish a great deal in this new role. I've known May for 17 years, worked closely with her on healthcare initiatives over these years, and so I was absolutely excited when I took a moment and let people weigh in to see this outpouring of support for her to enter into this House of Representatives seat. One last thing I wanted to share, and then I will call May up, if I can. 55% of all the voters in Hawaii are women, but only 37% of the Senate and House seats are occupied by women. And I think that there is a good argument to be made to have more women representing us in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, the executive branch, and of course Congress, where we're a little more balanced. So May comes in as just the 29th out of 76 members that are women, and I'm so confident that she's going to represent her district with great strength. And with that, I'll call May up for a few words. Congratulations.
Governor Green, I am very grateful for your appointment. Your legacy is every life you have touched, and my life has certainly been touched by you. Thank you. I would also like to thank my husband, John Mizuno, the representative of Kalihi Valley for 17 years, for providing me with the necessary foundation to serve in public office. In addition, mahalo to my family and friends for your support. I am an immigrant from the Philippines and female. I never anticipated I would ever be appointed to serve as state representative. To all people of color, immigrants, women, and girls, please never give up in all your life's endeavors as you aspire to serve your purpose. with gratitude and one obligation to best serve the people of District 29 and the state. I end by saying, Governor Green, I will work to serve the people. God bless you for your trust and belief in me. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Governor. Our first question comes from Chad Blair with Civil Beat.
Congratulations, Rep. Mizuno, by the way. Governor, just not the question I was going to ask, but it was occurring to me. You're sure appointing a lot of people to the legislature these days. I don't remember a governor in their first year or so having so many picks, at least one senator I know of. Yes. It's now 3 or 4 reps, I think. Is there something that you then expect from that person that you appoint? How do you describe that relationship from these people that you're putting into office?
Sure, and a bunch of judges, too, including 2 Supreme Court judges last week. I have no expectations other than that they care about people. That is it. I don't have ideological expectations of them. I certainly don't have any kind of loyalty expectation. I expect them to work as hard as they can and to provide caring leadership. That's all I ever ask or express. It is interesting because the process is really, for the most part, out of the control of the governor, because you receive, and I'll remind people, receive lists of 3 individuals for House or Senate seats. People have to ask to be considered. Then I get a list of 3, and of course the judges are a larger list. But it's not something that the governor does to go and court them. And in fairness, I didn't ask any one of these individuals to put their names in. I just kind of wait and see what will happen. You sometimes have an idea of who's interested. May stood out. For years, I've seen her working on issues in this district, and also, if I may, issues that were very focused on the Filipino community, which we don't often have enough advocates for. So that was a very nice thing, in this case, to have 3 nominees that were all Filipino.
Mahalo. Our next question comes from a rising star with the Honolulu Star Advertiser, a.k.a. intern Victoria Budiono. Now I've embarrassed her.
Hi. My question is actually for Rep. Mizuno. So how has being an office manager helped you deal with the public and lead you to becoming a representative yourself?
Thank you for that question. I have been an office manager for 17 years. I take care of the issues brought up to our office. I brought it up to John, and we addressed those issues. So I pretty much know the district very well. Thank you.
What are your legislative priorities this year?
Affordable housing, healthcare, pretty much, and crime. Thank you.
Interestingly, one of the reasons that May was a particularly important and good nominee is because the legislature starts tomorrow, which is awfully tight. And I will share that I expect her, because I know May, to do great and has been working with us on so many projects. In just 7 months, all of the House members are up for re-election, so she gets to prove herself and show what she now can do in her role as representative. But that's the great part of our democracy. We always get an opportunity to prove ourselves and see if people choose us or don't. So I'm confident that May is going to do great. So Representative Mizuno, congratulations. And thank you, everyone, for understanding that we had to do this quickly, because we wanted to make sure that district had good representation. Aloha. That's it. Goodbye.